Motorcycle taxis have been used for domestic and commercial purposes across West African countries since the late 1980s. They, however, became a fixture in Nigeria in the mid-1990s. For a population in need of alternative means of transportation and more sources of income, it was quickly embraced and named after Nigeria's foremost commercial airline at the time, Okada Air. But as the years went by, these solutions became a menace themselves.
We cannot do without Okada because of the traffic we have around. But then the Okada people need to have, this culture of patience. They are not patient at all. They drive anyhow.
According to hospital records, Okada accidents rose to worrisome levels. And as a result, many states across Nigeria that until now welcomed the idea of motorcycle taxis have been looking to get rid of it, much to the chagrin of a population that had come to see it as the most common and almost indispensable mode of transportation in the country. In 2012, Lagos State enacted its traffic law, some sections of which successfully restricted motorcycles to inner streets and imposed the use of crash helmets for both the rider and passenger. Expectedly, this new law generated controversy in ample quantity.
Helmets? No, none of them have offered helmets. As a matter of fact, if you ask them for helmet, they'll tell you, Oga, they live for this country.
Federal Road Safety Commission has been putting its eyes on them, even at the corner in which they have been moved to now, ensuring that they put on their helmets.
But this is not the reality on the streets. Instead, what obtains are commercial riders and passengers who ply the roads with recklessness and plastics that are at best imitations of the approved protective crash helmets.
In places where we've been restricted to, we've recorded high compliance level, but you always find disobedient ones among us.
5 to 4%.
One wonders how dissident riders are allowed to escape the law.
What we did was to reduce our presence in the urban and move them to where we were sure that we will reduce the rate of our road traffic crashes. As a result of that, some of these Okada men may have cashed on that, not to use the crash helmet while plying their restricted areas.
Idowu, a medical doctor, tells me the implications of such nonchalance by the people and apparent lukewarmness to enforcement of the law by security operatives are far-reaching.
Injuries to the head are not so forgiving. You can have the very simple head injuries like what we call concussion. There could be more severe ones in which there's bleeding. After that injury, there's bleeding into the brain, either into the coverings of the brain or into the brain itself. Following this type of injuries, it is possible that the patient may actually be conscious after that, but then suddenly enough faints or go unconscious and may never wake up again if nothing is done.
This is the Ward G of the National Orthopedic Hospital Igbobi in Lagos, which is the first port of call for accident victims because it specializes in the treatment of orthopedics, trauma and burns. Our research today has indeed shown that there has been a steady decline in the data of patients being turned in as a result of accidents through motorcycle taxis, popularly called Okada, within the metropolis. But the worrisome fact is there is now a rise in the data of patients turned in as a result of accidents from tricycles.
This tells you that the recklessness with which the motorcycles were driven may have been transferred to the tricycles.
The same people that they are of the same caliber of people, so they drive almost the same way.
Ayola boarded a Keke Marwa on his way home from work a few days before Christmas of 2013. His driver overtook a truck.
He was driving on the middle lane, so by the time he now swept back to his normal lane, he now hit the Marwa guy.
The result? A broken right thigh and a broken leg as well. In the next ward, David lies with a broken leg which is the result of brake failure that saw him flying into a gully. He owns and drives the tricycle which landed him here. David now thinks there should be driving schools where people get certificates before hitting the roads.
The government will just find something to just do to it. Maybe to give them learning.
But things work out quite differently. The situation at present is that anyone who wishes to drive a tricycle is trained by either a friend or a relative and then hits the street, ferrying hapless passengers to their destinations or to the nearest hospital beds. CHRISTYCOLE, POPOOLA, TVC News, Lagos.